Hola. Hola, ¿cómo está? Me llamo es Drew Stone. In la ciudad de Nueva York. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. What's going on, everybody? Boy, am I glad to see you. I hope everybody's all right in this crazy world we live in. What can you say about what's going on in the world? You know, but we'll say this. This show, and it always has been, and it always will be, an alternative to the nightmarish scenarios that are going on out there. You know, we don't get into politics. We don't get into Trump. We don't get into who's vaxxing and who's not vaxxing. We don't get into Israel. We don't get into Palestine. We don't get into these things. We offer a break from all that. And we talk about music here. That's what this show's all about. That's what the show's always been all about. You know, so that's what's up. You know, come take a break. Come join us and watch the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live and put that stuff out of your head for a second. You know, all that horrible shit that's going on in the world. Horrible. You know, it's fucked up. So that's right. Just trust in music. That's right. It's the tie that binds us together. It is why we are all here. You know, not to get heavy on you. I'm not trying to get heavy on you, but that's what's up. So here we are. Here with music. Let's meet a new friend in Cleveland. You know, let's do our thing. And I want to shout out Astoria Lou up in Buffalo. I saw your Niagara Falls pictures, bro. There you go. You know, that's right, Courtney. Music is the reason. Yep. Philippe, yes, thank you. That's right. Congratulations to Paul Bearer, our friend and supporter, who got married. Was that yesterday? Congratulations, Paul from Sheer Terror. Yes, Chris Contos. Yep. Music, medicine. Absolutely. Speaking of music and medicine, here he is, the Hardcore Shutterbug.
What's up?
Hey.
I'm in the music. I'm in the musical medicine cabinet as we speak.
How's things in the bunker?
Good.
You're like the guy from like fucking what's that movie? What was the second Cloverfield movie? Was that the Cloverfield?
Oh, it was like something Cloverfield Lane. The one with
where they're down in the bomb shelter.
Yeah, with John Goodman.
That's like you. You're that's just like the end of the world, and you're living down in you know, in the basement.
I mean, I got plenty to listen to.
You know, that's it. You got fucking music to listen. Oh, that's it. 10 Cloverfield Lane.
That was a good movie, actually.
Yo, I'm a fan of all three of the Cloverfield movies.
Yeah.
I enjoyed all three of those movies. You know,
I think it was the first one was a much more realistic take on like a Godzilla movie.
It had a lot of 9/11 imagery. It had a lot of 9/11 imagery in it, which I personally found a little disturbing, being that I was down there in 9/11, and like when that movie came out, it was a couple years after, and I found it upsetting. You know. Hey, did we talk about Oppenheimer?
No, I don't think we did. I know you saw it last week, right?
I saw Oppenheimer. Me and Rochelle went and saw Oppenheimer, you know, in the movie theater right up here, you know, the seats that recline and the arm goes up and you could like, you know.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
You know what? I liked some aspects of it, but a couple things I didn't like, right? One, it was too fucking loud, right?
It was loud.
It was so too fucking loud. It was a Christopher Nolan film who did the Batman films. So even when people are talking, there's like all this music in the background. And like all I'm hearing is this fucking music. And I'm like trying to make out the dialogue and I'm getting pummeled with this background music, you know? So movies are fucked up for me now. Movies are like either it's too loud and I put earplugs in, and then they start talking and I take my earplugs out and I'm like, I can't fucking hear.
Yeah. I predict a couple Oscars for this one.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, Matt Damon was good. You know,
I think Robert
you know
Downey
what I
Jr.
want to see. What I want to see next is the Scorsese film. Not, you know, and hopefully it's not the same thing.
The Killing of the Flower Moon.
Yeah, man. You know what I realized seriously after. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Contos. I hate wall-to-wall music in film. It bugs the shit out of me. Let me tell you something. When I do my film Finders Keepers, yo, when people are talking, there's gonna be no fucking music in it.
It's gonna be a silent movie.
It was so, yo, Oppenheimer was so loud, and even when they're talking, I couldn't like. I'm they're saying as there's like this huge fucking orchestra going on. I'm like, ah.
Yeah, I didn't.
I walked out of there. I walked out of there. I said, you know what, honey, that's it. I'm done. I'd rather watch it at home where I could have the fucking words. I could read the fucking words like the deaf motherfucker I am, right? I can read I can read the words and like know exactly what's going on and mute it when it's too loud instead of sitting there. I feel like going to the movies. I'm like getting like, you know, victimized. I'm like getting like molested, like in the movies. Like I'm like getting like, you know, it's like a molestation. Like it's so like it's too much, man.
You know, anyway. I enjoyed the new Exorcist movie too. I just saw that.
Is that right?
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Hey, let's talk about this picture that you sent me.
Oh, okay. Let's do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you know what? For old time's sake, wrong answers only, please. Photo of the day. Wrong answers only, please. There you go. Is it? Let's see. Wrong answers only, please. Drew Stone, get on. Right on. Yeah. Auditory processing disorder. Yeah. I want a fucking peace and quiet. Is it? Is it Lita Ford? Is it Discharge? Good one. Is it Venom? Is it Poison? Is it Boy George? Close.
Now we're getting warmer.
Is it Cinderella? Somebody save me. That fucking first Cinderella record was great. Is it Liberace? Close. Is it Blondie? Is it Emerson, Lake and Palmer? You know who I saw once? I once saw Emerson, Lake and Powell. I saw.
That's a good record.
Cozy Powell, yeah.
Touch and go.
Is it Billy Idol? Is it Colin from GBH? Is it the New York Dolls?
Mm-hmm.
Close. All this and more. Here's another one. Here we go. Here's another one. Is that? That's debatable.
We're getting there.
Kinda. Is it Scalpel? Is it Screeching Weasel? Is it Pavarotti?
Is it Women in Distress?
Is it women? WIN, Women in Distress. WID. Is it Queen? Yes. Okay. Tell Brian October. What is this?
All right. This is Queen and Queen plus Adam Lambert, as they bill it. We went the other night, last minute. Me and a girlfriend of mine were handed free tickets to Madison Square Garden, and I was really excited because I've never seen Queen. I loved the original Queen, of course, and I even liked when Queen was with Paul Rodgers. Not the biggest Adam Lambert fan, people love this guy, and he can sing, but Freddie Mercury, I just I thought half of the material worked for him and half didn't. And I feel like if it's possible to be too flamboyant for Queen, that he pushed it pretty far, and that there's another singer out there. There you go. Speaking of too flamboyant, there is another singer out there named Mark Martel who does a Queen thing, and he's actually endorsed by Queen, and I think he's like 100 times better and more suited for the job than this guy is. But people love him, and they sold out 2 nights, and it just didn't speak to me the way that I had hoped it would.
Yeah, I mean, I saw them play the time before this at the Garden. I went, and it was
Yeah. Look at Roger Taylor.
aight.
Look, Roger Taylor looks like he should be saying, "Welcome to Jurassic Park."
Yo, these dudes are like almost 80. So
yeah, they're in their
makes me
70s. I mean, they sounded great. I mean, I honestly thought, I don't want to give this a bad review, but like, I thought that the music lacked the excitement that it usually has, and I was somewhat disappointed.
He's almost 80 years old. It's like I saw them, and it's you know what it is? It's a celebration of the music, right?
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
if you're going to see Queen, or you're going to see Leonard Skinner, or you're going to see even like any
of the vintage bands, really.
any Grateful Dead thing, or forget Molly Hatchet. There's not one original member in that. But I look at it like it's a celebration of the music. It's like
sure.
that's kind of what it is. Hey, at least Pantera's got some of the guys in it.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
Pantera's
it's like the Grateful
really
Dead
good.
with John Mayer, but it's similar to that. It's like 1 or 2 guys, and if you love the music and you want to sing along, and
but the singer is the key, because you still it's very hard to replace. There's only a handful of bands, I think, that rose above losing their singers. There's only so many Brian Johnsons and Bruce Dickinsons out there to take a band to another level after their singer dies.
Yeah. Yep.
That'd be a whole other show in itself. We could do a whole thing about
Quiet Riot. There's a million bands like that now, hardcore bands too, but it's a celebration of the music. And it's interesting because 20 years ago, people were like, cover band. Now it's like, every fucking band is like that. You don't hear that. No, they're just a fucking cover band. Like, come on. This is the world we live in.
Yep. It's one band that I think did well with all the singers, Deep Purple.
Chris Conte, any band should be able to continue playing without the original members. Yeah, why? I agree with you on that, because I look at it like it's a celebration of the music.
Absolutely.
Oh, here's
Absolutely.
one. Name a band that's out there right now, or has been out there, with 0 original members.
I think I know a couple.
Let's see what these jamokes come up with here.
I think Kansas is touring with no
original members. Here, Skinner, correct. That's one. Leonard Skinner has
Foreigner.
No original members. No, actually, that's kind of wrong. Leonard Skinner has what's his name playing guitar from Blackfoot, Ricky Medlock, who was the original drummer in Leonard Skinner. So there you go. Good one. Napalm Death. Correct. Napalm Death. Yep. That's true. Decent
Yeah, I mean,
team.
it's, you know what? If there's
I'll
one,
name a couple. I'll name a couple, being that
what about
people
Foreigner?
Foreigner.
Mick
Foreigner.
Jones
Once in a while, Mick Jones.
sometimes plays, sometimes he doesn't.
Sepultura, no. Paulo's the original bass player in Sepultura, I think. Temptations, that's true. Yep, that's true. You know who else? Foreigners one. Molly Hatchet's another. They're out there, man.
Yeah,
You know,
Kansas. Yeah,
no original members. You know,
and yet there's still 4 Rolling Stones out there touring. You know,
well, the
they
Stones aren't touring. I don't know if the Stones are touring. I wouldn't say that.
no.
But
When you, I mean, they still got Mick, Keith, Ronnie, who's not an original member, but he's classic member.
Yeah, it's just Mick and Keith.
You know.
Anyway, all right.
Yeah.
There you have it. Hey, you're playing on Wednesday.
Wednesday, yes. This Wednesday at the Baker Fall.
If you put me on the guest list, and you're not playing past 9 p.m., I think I can come.
We'll give you a cup of warm milk with that.
Yeah, that's the deal. If you put me on the guest list, and you're on before 9 p.m., I will watch 15 minutes of your band.
Jeez, you're some A&R guy.
Hey, I'll watch 15 minutes of your band, and then I'll go stand outside in front of the club and bullshit with a bunch of people until you're done. And then I'll come and tell you that you guys were great.
Paulie Pork Chops. I got to send him some. I got to post some pictures. I got some graffiti trains this week.
All right, I'll talk to you in a bit, man. This is it. Make no mistake about it. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, and we are sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, The Organic Grill, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Generation Records, 126 Hardcore Clothing, Upstate Records, and they're a jewelry design firm and boutique store located in the birthplace of the Texas country music scene in Fredericksburg, Texas. They specialize in work with musicians in all music genres to design and create unique one-off pieces, as well as the styling for stage, album covers, promo photos, and social media exposure. Their client list includes Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Greg Rowley, Ringo Starr, and of course, Agnostic Front. Information on online sales is being taken at their Facebook and Instagram page, and of course, www.texassilverrush.com. Come on now, 126 Hardcore Clothing. They're a streetwear brand for restless individuals who don't compromise like you, my friend. For years, they experimented with several printing methods and materials and collaborated with a large number of designers and illustrators, always giving room for fresh perspectives while retaining the hardcore attitude. Get in touch with them. Ramp up your weak-ass clothing game at www.126clothing.com. That said, let's get ready. Let's bring our guest on. Let's see. Mike Muir's not coming on the show. We've been through that. Everybody seems okay. Let's clear the deck. Let's bring our guest on. Here we go, yo. Today's guest is a tattooer, illustrator, graphic designer, and musician hailing from the Buckeye State of Ohio. As a musician, for over 25 years, he is known for his work as the frontman for the iconic horror punk band American Werewolves. Please welcome, coming at us from Cleveland, Ohio, Mr. Trevor Moment. Hey, man.
Hello.
How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me today.
My pleasure. Let me knock up your volume a little bit. Yeah. How's things in Cleveland?
Fantastic, man.
Is it snowing yet?
It's coming. It's gloomy Sunday already.
I just remember Cleveland being cold as fuck. You know?
We get a good 6 months of the cold. I like it personally. I think it's.
Yeah, I do too.
I do a lot of outdoor activities, and it's actually semi-enjoyable for the most part. But
yeah, I'm a big. I enjoy the cold weather. The cold weather as well. Yeah, I do. I lived in Vermont for a couple of years up near the Canadian border.
Oh yeah,
it was fucked up. You know.
Yeah, they get. I was hiking out there, and I just didn't realize how much snow they could get.
Yeah.
Just in a couple hours.
A lot of it's like it, yeah. It's like the kind of place where like it'll snow every day for a month in the
Right.
middle of the winter. It's just every day it'll snow. So that said, let's get into it. Let's chop it up a little bit, and we'll see where the horse takes us. How did you come up? Did you grow up in a musical household? How did music come into your life?
No, I grew up in a very unmusical household. I got into like heavy metal and stuff maybe around 9th grade, 10th grade. I always liked music and always tried to make it and stuff. Since I was probably like 5th, 6th grade or something, started messing around with like a drum machine and some of that kind of stuff. But I played athletics in high school. I played football and stuff. So once that kind of ended, I started a band with some buddies.
What was the first music that you heard that you connected?
Truthfully, what happened is I was a wrestling fan. I'd watch professional wrestling, and the Road Warriors came out to that Iron Man, and the hair on my arms would stand up. So I had a buddy that I'm still good friends with today, who was into a lot of metal. And I was like, hey, what's that? Is that Ozzy Osbourne that the Road Warriors come out to? He's like, no, that's Black Sabbath. So he made me a tape. He was like, I put some other songs on here. I think it was We Sold Our Souls to Rock and Roll. So I'm just thinking it's like, music where there's one or two cool songs and that's about it. But it was like song after song. And that just, from that day forward, that just kind of opened a door for me. And then kind of what happened after the next progression is we were at a death metal fest where it was Obituary headlining and Cannibal Corpse was on it too, but Agnostic Front was on that tour. And that was kind of our first exposure to like punk rock and hardcore, where I guess I just immediately saw that as more relatable music than death metal.
Sure.
So,
sure.
But yeah, that was kind of how it started. Go ahead.
You mentioned wrestling, and
yeah,
I know I was a big wrestling fan growing up, and I know a lot of people that watch the show are, and I think it's safe to say Cleveland, Ohio area was like a real bastion, like for wrestling. It's like a real stopover. It's a beloved wrestling town. It is Cleveland. Is it safe to say that?
Yeah, there's a bunch of there's a lot of crossover between the music scene people and like a lot of the wrestling fans too.
Yeah. Mike said favorite wrestler.
Oh man, Bruiser Brody would be high on the list. I like the Road Warriors. Magnum TA was a cool one. There's a lot of '80s guys I liked a lot.
Yeah. I'm from like almost a little bit. Hey, Don Foos, what's up, man? Hey, Don, I'm representing today on the show for you. I'm from like a little bit the generation before that. I was like Bruno Sammartino, Ivan Putski, Nikolai Volkov, all that
kind, wrestling when cable came out, it just for whatever my interests were as like a 7 or 8 year old, wrestling just blew my mind, man. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it was a real wrestling was like a real portal, for yeah, it really was. It really.
I was real into comics as a kid, and then
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Right. So it kind of was like a similar heroic kind of thing where, I think I switched from buying like wrestling magazine. I was buying comics for years and years, and I kind of switched more into wrestling. But it was cool, it was like how we got into like lifting weights and stuff. Because there was no MMA back then. There just was like less things like that to watch, like it was like less niche kind of stuff. So, but yeah, that was how we started lifting weights a lot and stuff. Is we just thought,
Were you a boxing fan?
Oh yeah, I was a huge boxing fan.
Yeah.
I was young enough to like catch Leonard and Hagler and Hearns and all that stuff. While those guys were still fighting, the dawn of like Tyson.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I was always a huge boxing fan.
I mean, you're from Ohio. Boom Boom Mancini's from Youngstown.
Yeah, Youngstown guy.
Right?
Yeah.
He's the pride of Youngstown, Ohio. Ray Boom Boom Mancini.
Right. It might be Samoan Rob at this point. Might be our guitar player. Might be the new pride of.
There you go.
But yeah, Ray Mancini, sick man. I remember the fight with Dooku Kim, where he died.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of, like we were talking about the weather earlier. There's just tough people from this region, Midwest and Ohio and Cleveland and Youngstown in general. There's a lot of rugged, tough people, from this part of the world.
Absolutely. I in doing my homework, I saw fan of doo-wop.
Oh yeah, huge fan of doo-wop, especially like the faster stuff, and then like Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, Dion and the Belmonts, the Volumes. Yeah. Not as much anymore, but definitely when I first started doing the bands, it was a huge doo-wop stuff, and just like early, late 50s, early 60s rock and roll stuff, R&B stuff, the standard Elvis, Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry kind of things, Roy Orbison. That just era in general, I like that music. I like doo-wop, I like the like that's why I kind of like the Ramones and the Misfits and stuff like that, is just because it was like, late 50s rock and roll, but just with cooler lyrics, and like a heavy guitar. But, it's the same song structures as doo-wop songs,
Absolutely. And the Ramones and the Misfits are very connected, as far as, it's all like the Ramones was a band like when my kid was like 4 years old, he loved, it's like, it really,
there's a lot of that with American Werewolves, where I think if like a little kid can pick up on it, like I try to use it's the same, American Werewolves songs, the early ones are doo-wop structures. But if someone who doesn't know a song, or like a child can pick up on a song first time hearing it, it's a catchy song. And I've always tried to write catchy music. That's what I think. The best thing about the Misfits or the Ramones are just the hooks and the poppiness of it almost.
Real simple, stripped down, but it's got a hell of a hook.
That's always the best songwriting, I feel like, too, is like the simplest solution is usually the best songwriting.
Sure. How about horror movies? I mean, early horror movies spoke to you?
Oh yeah, all that's. I mean, I've just always loved, like monsters, horror movies, all that kind of stuff, So, that was like the allure of the Misfits and stuff, was combining the visuals of that kind of stuff with like a music, and it kind of makes a whole little world of itself. Like it's like an escapism almost when you get real into like listening to music and graphics and stuff,
Yeah,
but I like
early.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
I liked a lot, just like Wolfman, Frankenstein, Dracula, all that stuff as a real little kid, and then you kind of build up into watching grosser and more brutal stuff or whatever. But not so much anymore. I really don't watch movies in general anymore.
Chris Contos from Machine Head asks, "Are you into Hammer?"
Oh, you skipped this. Into Hammer? Was that the question?
Yeah, are you into those Hammer films? Those UK?
Oh yeah, I think like the Curse of the Werewolves, probably the best Wolfman movie And then they have a couple of the later Frankensteins that are almost more low budget.
Yeah, they're crazy. Those are kooky.
Um,
Yeah.
Something about it, man. They're like a weird dream I would have or something, you know. They're very
Yeah,
surreal almost. There's like the one with the paper mache looking, but I think that
yeah,
stuff's excellent. And I think that Curse of the Werewolf is probably the
yeah.
best werewolf movie, Wolfman movie.
You know, we just watched, if anybody out there is looking for something to watch, we just watched the Dracula thing that's on Netflix. It's a 3-part Dracula series. They're an hour and a half each. So it's
Yeah.
what, 4.5 hours. Interesting take on it. We made it through it. You know, some good, kind of a different spin on it, but it was some good shit in there. We enjoyed it, you know.
Yeah, it gets, I think, difficult to do those classics at this point and do any kind of justice
Yeah.
to them, you know. I like that Bram
This has been
Stoker.
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was
With Gary
great.
Oldman?
Yeah, old fucking Gary Oldman when he stabs up the cross in the beginning and it starts shooting blood. You know, like for a major Hollywood release at that time, that was like a pretty intense scene.
Yeah, that was great. You went to school. You went to college, right? You went to Cleveland Institute of Art. Why there? What did you study?
Basically, I had kind of played on playing college football, and then you just kind of get to the point where, you know, you realize you've reached the end of your rope, you know, where you're not playing big time college football or whatever.
Right.
So I just figured you had to go to college, you know, for a better life or whatever it was. So, you know, the only thing I was good at in academics was art. So I went there, studied illustration there for a couple years. And then towards the end of it, I started noticing that a lot of people that graduated worked in local coffee shops and concert venues and stuff. So towards the end of it, I started realizing that I probably wasn't going to be given a job in illustration or anything. You know, I thought it kind of worked. You went to college, and then as soon as you finish, there's like a magical career waiting for you. So
yeah, tell that to my kid after 4 years of college, who's working construction.
Right. That was everybody I went to art school with. So towards the end, I started learning how to do the band stuff, started getting into computers and stuff, where at least, you know, I'm going to have a degree after this, but I want to continue, you know, working on the band stuff. So the whole idea of the plan, the first band I kind of did, I developed all that stuff at art school.
Did before we get into the plan and then eventually American Werewolves, just kind of coming up in Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland has a rich history of music. Did some of these was that in the air when you were coming up? Sort of the, you know, the Dead Boys, or, you know,
there were, when I was like late 90s maybe, there was a lot of like, I call them like cool guy bands where everyone was like a Dead Boy kind of rip off sort of thing. But at the time, it really came off as like, there was kind of a dead area for a minute where there was like rock and roll bands, and the hardcore scene had totally died out for a couple of years here in Cleveland, which people don't really bring up a lot. But for like 98 to almost 2000, it was nothing here for like hardcore. I would almost say a lot of what inspired me to do a band was disliking other bands.
Sure.
You know, where it was like because I remember just the guys I thought were somewhat pompous. You know, I came from athletics and stuff and got like the cold shoulder a little bit as like a jock guy in the early on in like the music scene. But a lot of it, I was like angst, or, you know, I'll show these guys kind of thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So really early on, I don't remember being influenced by like actual Cleveland bands, you know?
Makes sense. So let's talk about the plan a bit. I, I I've seen it described as a cross between Sam Hain and Sam good, a cross between Sam Hain and Sam Cooke, which is
Yeah.
pretty great. Which is pretty great. How did it come together? Why did it come together?
I guess I just wanted to do a band. And that was, you know, like what I wanted to do. So I guess like the plan real similar to American Werewolves, but slightly more rock and rollish, maybe slightly like more arty or something. But Tony, who played Tony Scamboni, who played bass for us, was just like a friend of mine. We rode motorcycles. So in that picture, the guy on the left is this guy, Skinny Lanzaretta, who was like an ace with motorcycles.
Mm.
So we started hanging out and riding motorcycles and stuff. And then I think that was how the band kind of came together. My friend Brendan, who played in American Werewolves for years, I went to art school with him, and he kind of just got what I was trying. I had some demos and stuff. He kind of thought it was cool, so we started working together. But I think the original idea was just to do kind of like a darker rock and roll band. I was really into, you know, like the doo-wop stuff.
Right.
And then like the Damned and TSOL, things like that at that time.
Sure. Yeah, I kind of get that from this picture. I could see that. A little Social Distortion sprinkled in, maybe.
A little of that kind of thing.
Yeah. And so I know the plan got together, eventually released 2 demos. First show was at the Fantasy Nightclub opening for the Undead. Is that right?
Yeah, that was the first planned show.
Any memories of that?
It was a good show. I remember for like a first show thing, you never know how it was good. I remember I made a real cool poster for it. And that was like back in the day where you could make a cool poster and people would show up for a show, you know?
Yeah.
So I thought just like based on a cool flyer, and no one at that time, there was a lot less of doing like the Misfits kind of, that style of horror artwork was less prevalent in the scene at the time. So I think that show, we might have had our demo out by then and then made a cool poster. The Undead, I thought, sounded kind of good that night, but nothing too sticks out too much other than it was like a good show.
Yeah, kind of like you said, there was a like action there for a couple years. There was where, you know, it's hard. It's hard to imagine, but bands like there was years where the Misfits kind of weren't around. You know, they got back together, you know, in what, 87 or something, 90s, excuse me, 97.
Right. You know? So when I got into the Misfits, that was like extremely, their catalog was all out of print for the most part at the time.
Right.
So it was like fairly obscure. People knew the Misfits because of the Metallica covers, were how,
yes, of course.
Any of my friends were aware of them. So it's like wild to see how it went from like an obscure, you know, if I met a kid at a party or something who knew the Misfits, I would become friends with them immediately. And this is before the information. So everyone wanted information on that band, you know, because it was like mysterious or whatever, you know. So to see it go from that to that they sell out Madison Square Garden now is, you know, wild, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I've known those guys a long time. When I was in the High and the Mighty, we played one of the last Misfits shows they did at the Channel in Boston. We opened up for them. Yeah. And it's even weirder having been there early on, seen them early 80s. I saw them once and the place was like half empty. You know, there was like 75 people there just hurling insults at them. You know, and then to see like this whole sort of mystique happening, and then it's very interesting.
That last whenever they did the Earth AD tour, you know, like through this area, I think they played in Akron and it was maybe 35 or 45 people or something. You know, they weren't big shows back then. To see the band, like at its tail end playing in front of like 45 or 50 people, and it comes back in 30 years. And you would think, kind of with the Graves era stuff and the stuff after, it might have like lessened the draw, just where people have seen it enough. But, amazing for them that you could sell out a Madison Square Garden,
Did you like the Graves era stuff?
I wasn't blown away. I liked it. It's like the way I always explain it, is if the Misfits are like a horror movie or like a real good movie, the Graves era is like the Saturday morning cartoon version of that. Where it's good and it's entertaining, but it's just not on the same level as far as like the rawness and like, the thing is, when you're doing the horror thing, it's real easy to toe the line between doing something really cool and something real corny.
Right.
And I think, with the Misfit stuff, the Glenn Danzig stuff, there's so much honesty and like desperation and things in his voice. It's very intense, where you just don't get that. I think the new Misfits, it's, the Grave stuff, it's catchy. The songs are well written. The recordings are more palatable to like the general public, but it's just not the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a little different, but I think it's sort of like the age-old adage of like, in a certain way, it kind of kept the name out there and kept the merchandise out there and kept the train.
I almost wonder if those guys conspired to do that whole thing all along, as like a work on the general public. Because if you look how it worked out, it was very ingenious, and that music being a little more cartoonish and being recorded more like a professional metal production, I think opened the floodgates for a lot more people to get into it that would never be into it otherwise. So who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe
absolutely.
It was
I mean, that American Psycho. Yeah, American Psycho was produced by Daniel Ray, who produced the Ramones and stuff like that.
Right.
And I thought that record was pretty good. The next one after that was all right, but then there was
people like the second one a lot, the Famous Monsters. I like the first one better.
Yeah,
but people like that Famous Monsters one better in general that I know.
How about Sam Hain? Was that a band that resonated for you?
Oh, I think Sam Hain's like one of the greatest things in the history of music.
Is that right?
Oh my God, I think it's incredible. I think that was kind of like, as far as I kind of see the Misfits through Danzig as kind of one band. It's kind of one evolving idea almost, but at its like artistic form, I see that at like its highest. And like the lyrical content, I think's deep. Like a lot deeper than even deeper than the Danzig band, or definitely deeper than the Misfits. But you can see in the music where someone's really putting their all into what they're doing. And when I listen to that music, at first I didn't like when I first heard it, because I had heard Danzig before I ever heard Sam Hain, and then just like the production and stuff. And then back in the day, you'd have a Danzig album would be on those black cassette tapes from Plan 9 that sounded awful. It took a minute to get by like the production and stuff, but when it kind of clicked to me,
the lo-fi production.
Right. When you're used to listening to like metal, it's hard to find the charm in that almost right away. I had a lot of friends that I would try to get into Misfits and stuff, and they couldn't get by the recording quality.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sam Hain, I think, is incredible.
Well, there's that sort of ongoing timeline from Misfits to Sam Hain to really into the first and second Danzig records.
Right, right.
It's sort of there's a continuity there to it.
Yeah, it seems like from like the Misfits stuff all the way to about the fourth Danzig record.
Yeah.
It's like a continuous idea almost, or evolution.
Yeah, I love the second Danzig record, man. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think the first four are amazing.
Yeah,
he just played here.
Is that right?
September the 13th, he was here. He played it. There's a Masonic auditorium that they converted into a venue here. That's really fucking cool. But he sounded amazing, man.
Yep.
It was like the best I've ever heard him sound. I've been seeing him since the 90s, and I thought that was the best his voice has sounded that I've ever seen.
Is that right?
Yeah. And there's been times I've been real, kind of underwhelmed with seeing him live, where
Absolutely.
it was like, but man, and everyone I talked to there was blown away. It was an incredible, the whole performance. The band sounded amazing. I don't know if he had like, how like Miley Cyrus and them have the vocal surgery, if he had a surgery or if he's just been hitting the lessons hard, but he sounded incredible.
That's good. That's good to hear because you tastefully use the word underwhelmed, and I've seen him a couple of times, and it was like, you
Right.
could tell and not knocking the guy. He's pushing. He's pushing 70.
70, yeah.
And I've seen him a couple of times, and his voice, is a little sore, not great. And so that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I told someone this story. Just told someone the story. Might have been. I think I told someone the story yesterday. I was a stage manager on a film stage in Astoria, Queens, in I guess it was 86 or 87, I guess, if that's when it was. And I was the stage manager on a film stage, and a film production came in, and they shot Danzig Mother, the music video. They shot it on my stage, and I remember Glenn from the Misfits days, and talked to him a little bit. But what the big thrill when they came in was Chuck Biscuits was playing drums, and that was like that was there was two when I was a stage manager. There was two videos. There was more. But there was two that was really exciting for me. One was Danzig Mother. The other one was Suicidal Tendencies. Send Me Your Money. Like to have them come onto my stage and do that was great.
Send Me Your Money is a classic.
Yeah.
We were talking the other day, me and one of my clients, about how all the '90s bands have a song about the TV preachers. It was like a standard, standard metal track of the '90s. Is you have to have a song about Jim Baker,
TV evangelists.
Evangelists, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. So the plan comes together. You do two demos, Rock or Die demo and the Atom Age demo, and did also actually the Rock or Die demo. Were all the instruments played by the producer? How did that? Yep. What was the story with that?
There was a guy called Mike Brodowski who recorded with a bunch with American Werewolves. He's out in Bloomington, Indiana now. He's famous for. Do you remember the cat Lil Bub? There's like a cat. His cat was like a phenom. It was like a world famous cat by the name of Lil Bub. But there's pictures like Robert De Niro. Look it up, man. It's huge.
Oh, here he is. Right?
Yeah, Lil Bub.
Holy shit. Look at all this.
That cat has more Instagram followers than
get a load of this. Little Bub was an American celebrity cat known for her unique physical appearance. Her photos were posted to Tumblr. Wow. Look at it. Got a whole Wikipedia page.
Yeah, the cat's famous.
This is his cat? Oh, here it is.
Yeah, it's Mike
Brodowski. Wait, I'm just trying to look where it says that it's his. Brodowski arranged meet and greets for both him and Little Bub at animal shelters around the U.S. Wow. It was on Good Morning America. So there you go. Oh, there you go. Wow.
So Brodowski, I grew up with. The first band I was in a band called Springforth. He's probably about 3 or 4 years younger than me. So when he went to college, he went to the University of Indiana to study recording engineering. So that first demo was just him and me did all of that. So he played guitars and stuff on that. He played on some later stuff too. He played on a couple some stuff on American Werewolves he's on. But a great guy and like a super talented engineer. Russian Recording, if you're ever out in Bloomington, Indiana.
He still has a place?
Yeah, he's still going strong. He just did like his 20th anniversary or something for his studio.
At the end of the Plan tenure, was there a record recorded that was never released?
Yeah. That's funny you know that. We did like it's more kind of a more thrashy.
Hey, this is my job, man. It pays my rent and bills. I do my homework.
It's impressive. You're gonna outdo Nardwar as a. Do you know him?
No, I don't.
Oh, he interviews like hip hop guys. He's like a strange like nerd guy that's like our age, but he interviews like young hip hop guys, and he asks them very obscure questions that they find mind blowing. But
right on. Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, we did an album at the end, and I wasn't getting along with the guys in the band, the last guitar player and drummer that we had, so that kind of just never came out. And then the Plan kind of ended a little after that, and then we just reformed as American Werewolves.
Tell us about that. Like, how did it come back together? Was there a game plan? Why did you bring? And who was in the original lineup?
So Tony came over from the Plan and played bass, and then we got Nate Jocham, who was in Final Plan at the time, and then he went on to do like Ancient Wisdom. He was in Integrity and stuff for a while. Real good musician, but he started playing drums. And then my friend Brendan from art school, who had played in the Plan a little bit, came back over. And then we just kind of wanted to change the name because it had, different lineup and stuff, different guys. And kind of the music went in like a little more of like an aggressive direction at that time. So we thought the name change would be kind of cool. But it was essentially the same band. And, I had already had the song since before I knew any of the guys. So
I don't know if this is that lineup, but it seems like an early shot.
That's the first American Werewolves lineup.
Oh, good. I got it right. Yeah. There you go. So you get rolling with American Werewolves. First show at Peabody's, right? With Integrity. You mentioned Integrity.
I don't know. I don't think the first American Werewolves show, that was like an official one. I think it was Halloween of 2003. But that was just us headlining. But that was an amazing show. We played some shows that year. I think the Plan played with Integrity, maybe. I don't remember if the name switched or not. But
is that this?
That was the first American Werewolf show I remember. That's 2003 at Pirates Cove.
There you go.
That's inside of Peabody's.
That looks like a blast.
Yeah, but we actually did play with Integrity, one of those Integrity shows as the Plan. Now that I think about it, but I haven't, it's been years. It's 20-some years ago already.
Sure.
But yeah, this was a great time. I had a jack-o'-lantern on my head. People went wild. It was a fun show. The Pirates Cove was kind of like a cooler venue, a little bit smaller, so that it just would get more personal and kind of more rowdy in the Pirates Cove shows.
Was it like right off the bat? Was sort of the imagery well received?
Yeah, I think people were in it because at that time, not a lot of bands were doing that sort of thing. It seems like right after there and till now, there was kind of a lot of that sort of thing. But like I said, at the time, the Cleveland bands were kind of like like kind of dead boyish knockoffs, fashionable type of guys. So people were definitely into like the merch and the look and the aesthetic of the band, I guess, right away.
And I'm assuming you sort of use that which we all have, kind of use that template, that sort of Misfits template as far as merch goes, and get it out there with t-shirts and demos and singles and stuff.
Just coming from a visual arts background, I just saw it as part of the music, you know, so that whatever it's like an overall experience of enjoying the band, I guess, is you know, the visuals that accompany the music. So I guess I just was trying to make artwork that matched the band, you know. But yeah, I think you know, like definitely the Misfits were the strongest at pushing that kind of thing. But I like just the punk rock, simpler, I still use a high contrast kind of look with a lot of stuff today. You know, stuff that would reproduce in flyers and stuff, at like lo-fi stuff, I always thought was cool. And like a lot of the older horror stuff is like that, where it, you know, had to be reproduced cheaply or whatever. Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, let me take a sponsor break for a couple minutes. Cool. And let me get this stuff out of the way, and we'll come back and we'll talk about We Won't Stay Dead. We'll talk about a couple of the records, and we'll get on to a couple other things. All right. Fantastic. See you in a couple. There you have it. Trevor Moment from American Werewolves on the show today. Let's hear from our sponsors. We'll talk about some events coming up. We'll talk about some shows coming up as well.
Since 1992, Generation Records has been a mainstay of the New York metropolitan area music scene. Today, they offer a diverse selection of new and used rock, jazz, indie, hip-hop, punk, hardcore, metal, blues, soundtrack, and reggae LPs, as well as t-shirts, posters, and ice. They buy used record collections and music memorabilia and will pay you top dollar for them. House calls made for large collections in the tri-state area. Call or email generationrecords@gmail.com and follow them on Facebook and Instagram.
Hey guys, Vlad from Organic Grill. As you can see, we're in a new location on West 3rd Street, right by Blue Note and Comedy Central. The place is bigger, kitchen is bigger, we have more varieties, more food. We are looking forward to treat you guys with great dishes. All hardcore Chronicles, welcome to Organic Grill. We are going to serve all the events as we usually do, and we are happy to see you guys.
Peace, what it do? Welcome to NYHC Comics at 117 Main Street, Dobbs, Surrey, New York. I'm Debo the Pro with my homie
Lee Farley.
Welcome to the spot. Specializing in yesterday's and today's comic books, rare CGCs, toys, collectibles.
Got skateboards, old school tapes, Mathering, Warhammer.
Video games, original art pieces by your favorite New York City and worldwide artists. Let's go. Skate decks all day, baby.
We also have the young reader section here for like 10 and under. The Pops. People love the Pops.
Star Wars! We are New York hardcore. We all rep the scene. Let's get it on.
That's right. Go out and buy shit. Support our sponsors. Speaking of support, there is a Patreon page that could use your support if you haven't already. If you're a patron on Patreon, you get the new book for free, the New York Hardcore Chronicles Volume 2, 1990 to 1999. It's out now. Support the show. What can I tell you? Buy the book. Be a patron. That's what keeps this show going. What can I tell you? You want me to lie to you? No, you don't. There's the Patreon. There's the Patreon page. If you want to make a donation, there's a super chat function for the show. The book, if you are not a patron, if you are a patron and you want the book, send me your friggin' address. I don't know what the fuck you're waiting for. The book is available at www.stonefilmsnyc.com. As a matter of fact, both books are available at www. Volume 1, Volume 2. Make it happen. Buy the book. Support the show. Help me help you. That said, the book is rad. Yeah, the book is rad. That said, coming up, let's talk about a week from today, celebrating the Real Live 35th anniversary show. J.R. Roach from Sam Black will be on the show 1 week from today. 1 week after that, this hasn't been announced on social media yet, but this should be interesting. It's the Halloween show. My brother, Evan B. Stone, who many of you know from Expedition Unknown and Finding Bigfoot and Naked and Afraid and all that, he's coming on the show. The show is called Adventures of a Ghost Hunter with Evan B. Stone. We will have special guests Jack Vasey of J&J Adventures. He too is a ghost hunter, and Craig Satari from Sick of It All. So this is happening on Sunday, October 29th. The Halloween show, Adventures of a Ghost Hunter, here on the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. A week after that, Giz Butt from English Dogs, Prodigy, Janice Stark, and the Destructors will be on the show. A couple days after that, this was a big score from Killing Joke. Youth will be on the show. Also a world-renowned producer. He produced The Verve, Pink Floyd's last record, The Orb. This is going to be a great one. A week after that, yes, the return of Jack Grisham. We rebooked him. Go out and watch the film Ignore Heroes. I am very excited about getting Jackie back on the show. A couple days after that are some hometown cooking here. The Fenoit brothers, Amaru and Roberto of the Non-Residents. They're a great, great up-and-coming, popping New York band. This is going to be good. Joe Nelson from Trust Records, original singer in Ignite. He was in The Killing Flame and Trigger Man. He's on Sunday the 26th. And, of course, the 300th show, 300th episode. Who would have thunk it? Ray Capo from Youth of Today, Better Than 1,000, and Shelter. Coming on the show, we're going to talk about his new book, From Punk to Monk. So, yeah, so all that's happening. Couple of events coming up. Of course, we talked about Stephen Messina is playing this Wednesday at the Old Pyramid with Rebel Matic and Highly Effective People. Drew Stone Hit Squad is going to be playing Organic Grill. Yes, Sunday, October 29th. It's free. I'm moderating a book event at Generation Records on Saturday, November 11th with Mike from Channel 3. He's got a book out. Yo, come on now. The Big Banger. Sunday, November 12th at the Bowery Electric. Free, all ages, Sunday matinee. Pembroke, Cortisol, The Craze Reunion, Rebelmatic, and it is our record release show, Incendiary Device. It's going to jump off tonight, Sunday, November 12th. It's also a book signing event. I'll be there signing books. If you want one, pick one up. I'll sign it, and then I'll get on stage and scream my brains out. Women of the Pit present an art and photography exhibit Here and Now at C Squat, acoustic set by Kate Reddy. That's happening on a couple of dates, November 16th at the opening. And then, of course, the Holiday Slamboree with Toys, Tired of Your Shit, Chum Huffer, RBNX, Butterbrain, and No Redeeming Social Value. Women of the Pit and New York Hardcore Comics presents the Holiday Slamboree. So there you go. Get up, get out, and make it happen. Hey, Dee Shimon, been a minute. Good to see you. You know, Craig, I'm going to make Craig do the show at his friend's house so we can make sure you know, it's okay. Yes, Rich Zola says, get the book, it's fire. Not just because Rich Zola took the back photo, but that's good enough reason to buy the book. And once again, before we bring our guests back on, the book is available at www.stonefilmsnyc.com. Is that right? Alex Patterson from The Orb was a roadie for Killing Joke. He said he used to get on stage and sing their encores with him. Well, Youth produced a bunch of Orb stuff as well. Yeah, absolutely. Let's clear the deck. Let's bring our guests back on. Hold on. Let me get rid of all this chazarai from Mr. Trevor. Hey, man.
Hello. Great to be
And
back.
You're back. You're coming at us from your tattoo shop, Atom Bomb Tattoo, correct?
Correct.
How's things in that industry?
Tattooing, man, it's great. I'm thankful for it, but 100% different than the day I stepped in the door. As far as
Is it? Tell us about that.
Over here in my shop's like 15 minutes east of Cleveland in a city called Willoughby. When I was growing up, the county that Cleveland's in, Cuyahoga County, didn't allow tattooing.
Right.
So you had to come out to the next county over to get tattooed. So it was like real cutthroat, run by wild bikers and stuff. And now it's kind of just a regular industry, like being a dentist or a librarian or any other profession, you know. So
right.
There was a period kind of when I first really got started that was kind of in between those two places that I thought was great, but just a different job. You know, the people, like, it's just not in any way edgy or controversial to get any type of tattoo anywhere. You know, it's just a different thing than it was years ago. So the equipment's different, you know, the clients are different. It's just a very different job than it was 20 years ago.
It's interesting, and I've said this many times on the show, you know, just in my lifetime, seeing it go from, you know, things like tattoos and piercings being very like, ooh, you know, why'd you do that? You're never going to get a job now.
Right,
you know?
right.
You know, it's just sort of like, you know, now it's just.
I remember seeing Integrity, and, you know, like, he had kind of a sleeve and a little bit of a back piece, and like thinking that's crazy, you know, that like a kid, you know, like, because we had only seen bikers and like prison guys were the only guys with a lot of tattoos. So to see like a teen like covered in tattoos, we thought was like crazy, you know, where now you would, you know, it just would be someone who's like a lightly tattooed person, you know. So
sure. John Wolf from London says, you know, what years would you say it was in between?
What's that?
What years would you say it was in between, where the industry was sort of in between?
Tattooing?
Yeah.
Oh, like 05-ish, you know, around that area.
Yeah.
Where we would still like fight guys in the shop and stuff like that, but no one was doing hard drugs or like you know, taking advantage of, you know, so like the shop was run as a really professional business, but also if someone had a problem or didn't like how it was tough, and it was a pirate's job, and you could tell someone to fuck off or take a hike or whatever, you know.
Right. Things have changed.
The shop, I started working out. I apprenticed here at Atom Bomb in 2001. And then in 2000, I did kind of just did the band and was a bouncer from like 02 to 05-ish. And I started working in Kent with our guitar player, Rob, owns a shop in Kent called Defiance. So I started working down there in, I think, 06. And man, it was a great time, man. We made money, but we would have boxing in the shop, you know, where there'd be 200 people there to watch people box. So, and if you showed up, you usually had a box, you know. So it was exciting times. But I just feel like if some of that stuff happened now, it just wouldn't fly or would be too much. Or the whole culture of
It's just
is different, you know. Even with in Cleveland, it sounds almost exaggerated, the level of violence of like fighting and stuff at Cleveland shows, but it just was accepted that, you know, like people fight at metal, punk, and hardcore shows, you know. So I don't think that happens now, you know. Like I don't think people.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
Right. So I mean, that was every show in Cleveland forever. You know, as a bouncer and a guy that played a lot of shows, any kind of heavy show was guaranteed multiple fights in an evening. You know, so I think just like that kind of culture of things and how it was a little bit in tattooing. Tough guy stuff is less tolerated, maybe.
Yeah, you know, we mentioned in the pre-show, you know, I'm doing this biohazard doc, and even as we speak, I'm editing this segment of the film, and they're talking about when they were playing. I guess they're talking about the era of, I guess, early '90s. That every show they played there would be fights, and they would actually before the show make bets on what song it would break out. You know, and they and I have this on film. They're talking about, well, you know, since those guys are here and those guys are here, I put my money on the third song. And they said every night. It was every night. It was because, and then you have, I think in that era, speaking for sort of the New York area, people would gravitate to these shows to basically settle beefs and stir up the pot, you know, or whatever. It was a magnet. It was a cauldron of this kind of stuff, you know.
Right. I mean, it was, the thing is, especially with the '90s, I think everyone was trying to be, you know, it's like who is more extreme. So just if there's that level of violence that goes along with if the music is violent, yeah, the people should be violent too, I guess, was the.
That's interesting that you know, it's interesting you should say that because for me, because if the music is violent, the people should be violent. And now you have music that's violent and people that are very not violent. It's interesting.
Right.
It's an interesting dichotomy now with young kids coming up where you have this kind of a lot of this aggressive music, and yet there's a contingent that's just very anti-violent, you know? Interesting.
Right. It seems, I guess it's more like a movie or something, you know, where, so say you listen to like King Diamond or something, you know, when I was young, it's like he's in this band, so he is this, you know, he's a crazy satanic guy. But if there was a movie called King Diamond, then he's just an actor and he's just portraying. So I almost think, you know, like even earlier in rap and stuff, you know, it's like you had to be the thing you were singing about.
Sure.
I think is what we were looking for as music fans at that time. You know, so if you're listening to like hardcore guys or punk guys, I guess we wanted them to be crazy or, you know, violent or whatever, where now it's just, this is just music and you don't necessarily have to be that.
It sort of reminds me of when I saw Slayer, you know, I mean, back in this incredible, crazy, wild music, people would be going nuts. And then the song would end abruptly and Tom would just be like, thank you very much. Hope everybody's doing well. This next song is called South of Heaven. You know, it's wow. You know? Yeah, well, Pat Baldwin says the aggression is channeled online now, passive aggressively. Yeah, it's a bizarre world we live in, man, with all this online shit. Yeah. And back to the tattoo. Yeah, back to the tattoo thing. Pat also says today it's rarer to see someone without a tattoo, which
sure, you're not really. I have deep thoughts on tattoos sometimes that, I think about like some kind of like tribal man from a couple hundred years ago, like a guy killed a whale or something, and he's on a beach hammering, and like people are chanting prayers and shit,
Right. Old school. Somebody's
Right.
tattooing
And
with a.
I think you had to do something or be a part of something. Now, just someone wants a Shrek tattoo,
Right.
It's like very, I guess at some point you're doing like a blood ritual, and it's become trivial to like, but what you're probably doing on like, if you're like a spiritual person at all, I think you're doing something that should be maybe held in more esteem. And I'm probably as guilty as anyone else as a tattooer for just like knocking out names or little tattoos on someone. But if you look, probably until recent times, it was probably a very huge event in someone's life that was earned with some kind of
Sure.
achievement or status, rather than just anyone can have this and there's really no ties or anything.
Well, I think even going back, it was part of a ritual. And
Right.
It was part of the community and the culture or whatever. But there was a ritual attached to it, and I think in a lot of ways this culture has been de-ritualized.
Right.
It's,
Right.
yeah,
And I think it's like that, like when I first got hand or neck tattoos, it was almost like a sign of liberation, like, because it kind of showed you were either making enough money tattooing or you're doing like a band for the rest of your life where,
you're making the commitment to play for the rest of your life.
Right. I remember when I got, my neck and hands done, it was a big deal for me,
Right.
Where now someone's not going to not hire you because you have a hand tattoo.
Yeah. I remember, tattoos on the hands, neck, face were big no-nos, man. That was a big commitment right there.
The shops up here would say it was illegal to tattoo necks and hands because they didn't want the old timey owners didn't want people seeing it as like circus freak ish kind of things, so they wouldn't even tattoo hands and necks in this area.
Hey, while we're here, what were some of the old time tattoo artists that really whose work you love? Like, I don't want to throw any names out there, but any of the real old timey guys that whose stuff you really loved?
I just like when I got into tattooing, I kind of more got in on the fact that I was good at illustration, so I wasn't like super into tattooers before I got into tattooing, but I always like just like a Mike Malone kind of traditional guy, but you could tell he smokes weed or something because I do like a traditional gorilla or something, but shoot some lightning out from behind it. But the guys I liked were just like guys in the area that I would see do stuff that was cool. Like there's a guy, Rodney Rose, that owned a shop called 252 that was out here where I would see him in magazines, and just thought it was cool. Kind of like the same as how you'd like a punk band or something because the guys are in your circle of people. But so I started
home cooking.
Right. So I guess that was kind of the guys who were more interesting were like kind of the guys that were in the greater Cleveland area at that time.
Yeah. That makes sense. Let's pick back up on American Werewolves. So American Werewolves comes together. You start doing some recording. We Won't Stay Dead, 2003. Is it a Cleveland thing? Do you get out of Cleveland? How does that ball get rolling?
We did that record in 2003 in Indiana with the guy who had the little bobcat, Mike. And that record, the guys, we had just started playing with that lineup, and it started doing well, pretty good, where we were doing just a lot of regional stuff at that time, weekend stuff, but no actual touring for that album. But we were doing we were probably maybe outside of Mushroom Head or something, probably the biggest rock draw in Cleveland around that time,
Mm-hmm.
where we were consistently drawing a couple hundred people for a lot of those shows. So it was like a good time for the band. In Cleveland and regionally, we were doing pretty well.
Did you make it over to Europe at any point? Was there any sort of like
We had a couple things that were released there, but we never made it over. There was a couple times we were supposed to go. Europe and Japan, there were talks, but just ended up never happening. But that the horror punk stuff does kind of good in like Germany, especially. There's a lot of following for more of those type of bands.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of enclaves. Yeah, I would think in Japan,
there were guys from this band called Creep Out that we ended up making real good friends with that came over here and played a bunch of times. So still to this date, I'm still friends with those guys. So we have deep ties to Japan.
Yeah, I went there a couple of times. It's pretty great. So things roll along. You're pretty proficient doing a record every couple years. 1968, The Lonely Ones, every couple years, and I see that the records were kind of released through different entities. Was it difficult to get the stuff out there?
I write a lot of songs, and I'm just constant, especially through those years, I just was constantly writing. So it would be tough to get money together to record and stuff. But like the band was doing real well those first couple of years. So I think 1968, which may be our best record, I think that's a really, if someone wanted to like start into the band, I think that's like a good one to start with. But yeah, I just was writing songs all the time and wanted to get it done.
What was Fractured Transmitter Recording Company?
Okay, so Jason Popson from the singer from Mushroom Head at the time, him, and then Ryan Dunn from TV's Jackass were kind of the guys behind that label. Yeah. So
right.
They just came to me and they liked the band and wanted to do a record. So, yeah, we did that. The record did pretty well. There's some good songs on that.
Right.
We toured around. They had a band with Jason and Ryan called Altar Boys. We did some shows in Trocadero and Philly with those guys.
Sure. Sure.
But it was fun, man. A lot of the Jackass guys were around at that time. That Ryan Dunn was a great guy, super nice guy.
Is Ryan Dunn the kid that passed away?
Yeah, he was in a car accident.
He was in a car accident, yeah, like in Pennsylvania.
His family, I believe, is from somewhere in the Cleveland area, so he was around a lot. But
I see.
Super nice guy, man.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then The Lonely Ones, which was out on Robot Monster.
Lonely Ones, I guess after 1968, I kind of wanted to, like, Lonely Ones was supposed to be a little bit more of like late 50s, early 60s rock and roll and like influence on American Werewolves. So kind of like the recording and the way the guitars and stuff, it was more to emulate some stuff that we liked from Roy Orbison type of stuff. There's like a spaghetti Western instrumental kind of thing at the end. There's a lot of vocal harmonies and things like that. So that album was kind of us doing old rock and roll inspired stuff, but not really like parody or anything. It just, that was like a heavy influence in what I was writing as far as punk songs or whatever they were at the time.
And did that sort of set the table for this record, Wanderers Forever?
Yeah, what happened is our bass player Tony moved down to, he's a tattooer as well. He moved down to Virginia Beach. So he had like a newer lineup, and then we got a new drummer. And then we started playing with 2 guitar players. Samo and Rob, who's in the band now still.
Yeah, I saw that. He's in the video that we played in the beginning.
Yeah. So he was from Crowd Deterrent, and then he also did Race Riot after that. But so he joined the band, and then so for this record, it kind of became Rob had wrote a couple of the guitar tracks, and then I wrote the other stuff. But it was a little more just like, I guess it like the records I write is just what I'm into at the time or what's going on around me. So this was just like a little more like punk rock, hardcore, street punk. There's really not the horror aesthetic as much with, or at all with this record, really.
Was the Wanderers film an influence?
Oh yeah. Especially with all the graphics and stuff.
Yeah, I need to revisit this film. I don't think I've seen this film. I haven't seen this film. I mean, almost I'm tempted to say since it came out.
Yeah, watch it. It was like a thing, back in the. Both me and Rob are latchkey children of like the 80s, so we're familiar with all of everything that played on cable TV at the time. So
sure,
we both were big fans of the movies, and at the time the Cavs were wearing wine and gold, so it just became like a city thing to use those colors, and that font and stuff just made sense for the record. But yeah, we just were fans of the movies, and we kind of looked as the band at that time as like a little gang unto ourselves.
There you go.
So yeah, definitely.
Chris Hoffman says really good album, and Courtney says that's about when I heard of your band. So I guess this one got out there. I mean, the imagery of it is pretty strong. Yes. Yeah.
Right. I kind of felt like I didn't want to. The problem with the horror thing and the horror punk bands is a lot of those guys are like silly guys, It's like I don't know how to explain. The bands that are the bigger horror punk bands, to me, nice guys, great bands, but they're like silly billies a little bit, And we weren't that, the guys in the band are tough guys, serious guys. The music's serious. Was never like joking or having a real like goofy time with any of it. So for that record, we kind of just put the horror image aside a little bit, and then yeah, thought that would be cool to wander.
Yeah, I need to revisit this film. It just reminded me not too long ago, me and my gal were sort of revisiting a lot of movies from this era. We went through the whole gamut, of 70s stuff, The French Connection, and actually we just watched Serpico the other night. But I said, let's watch Lords of Flatbush, and I got like 10 minutes into it.
It's not good.
It's not good, man.
Yeah, see, Wanderers is great. Lords of Flatbush, you're thinking it's going to be the Wanderers. Wanderers is the incredible soundtrack too in the Wanderers.
Right.
Amazing soundtrack, and the Wanderers is based on a book called The Wanderers. That's really really great too. A lot of it's changed for the movies, but both are worth checking out. But I don't know how this movie flew under the radar on so many people, but I think it's incredible, and the soundtrack adds a ton to it as well.
Yeah, I'm going to revisit. I was doing some research on it, and it was directed by Philip Kaufman, and I was looking at his history. Really interesting film director. He did Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was involved with a bunch of other things as well. So yeah, I actually read I did a deep dive as a filmmaker, sort of into the history of the film as I do my homework for the show, and they say the film got green lighted basically because at that time, at that moment, there was sort of a glut of like quote unquote gang films like The Warriors and The Lords of Flatbush and that, and so that sort of opened the door for that film to get made.
Right.
Interesting.
There was a lot of 50s nostalgia, or 50s and early 60s nostalgia at that time too. It seemed like. But yeah, that movie's incredible.
You know, one thing that I did come back to constantly was the latest record you put out, which American Werewolves, and
Right.
I just kept coming back to that. Just like the way it sounds. I really enjoy that record. The new.
I
Can
think
you
the
tell us a little
recording.
bit about the new record and just how it came together?
Yeah, we must have recorded it over like 2020, start of quarantine-ish, but a lot of that was just done in the studio. I had songs written, so the guys just came to the studio and we hammered it out pretty quick. But it's a cool record. It's kind of like with that Wanderer or Kings of Wanderers Forever record, and then the horror stuff kind of mixed back in together. You know, it's kind of like an overview of the whole band, I think.
Sure, sure.
And I think it like you know, it's like an excellent recording. I think it's like the best sounding guitars we've had on a record.
Yeah.
Catchy songs. Fast Break did like a really cool. Let me grab it for you.
Yeah.
No, so I did like all the. It's like a little comic book thing.
Oh, nice. I didn't see. You see that's what you lose out on listening to shit
Right,
digitally, man. It sucks, man.
So Fast Break did the record, and they did they've been like super cool about working with me and like
Right on.
you know, figuring out like a nice idea will come up, you know, between the two of us to put the visual stuff, and they've been real cool about supporting the visual stuff and like adding that to the music. So I wanted to make something that just like you could get lost and, you know, you listen to the record and then you can sit and read along with the comic or look at all the cells or whatever, you know, get lost in the record for a little bit. But yeah, shout out to Fast Break for making that record happen. It's you know, nice vinyl, super cool release. I'm real proud of it.
Good. Gary says stunning album cover. It is. The album art is great. And Chris says, was that also done in Bloomington?
No, we recorded that here in Cleveland with this guy Dave Pytek, who he did the Wanderers Forever record too in 2010. I don't know if he's still. I think he's still doing his studio on some level. He's a great guy, super technical guy. He's working with a lot of bands. He's developing drum libraries now for samples.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Right.
for sure. Let me see what. Let me take a quick last sponsor break and come back. Let's talk about what you guys have coming up. We'll take some questions from around the world. All right.
Awesome, man.
All right. That's right. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Any questions for our guest, Trevor Moment of American Werewolves? This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, and we are sponsored by blah, 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 and Upstate Records. They're a New York-based DIY independent metal and hardcore label founded in 2017. They broke into the scene with their inaugural 26-band compilation, and since then have churned out over 80 releases in their brief 5-year history. Out now are new releases by Mark Rizzo's band Revenge Beast, Carl from Earth Crisis' Freya, Fury of 5, Angry Corpses, and a few more surprises in the works. Check them out and a whole lot more at www.upstaterecordsnewyork.com and use the code STONE10 for 10% off. Last but not least, if you saw these guys, we ran one commercial for DTFM and the whole show got flagged because they used some like old waltz music. A couple shows ago, their commercial I put in between, you know, the show ends and I'm like, what the fuck got flagged? Copyright infringement on the show. Took me a minute to figure it out because in the DTFM commercial they sent me, there's like some classical waltz music in the middle of it. So you guys got to get some music that's not going to get the show flagged. DTFM Vinyl Distro. Looking for extreme music? DTFM Vinyl has got you. in Fargo, North Dakota. We have the state's best selection of punk, hardcore, metal, ska, oi, and more. Can't make it in? Shop from anywhere in the country at www.dtfnvinyldistro.com. DTFN Vinyl, where the policy still is and always will be death to false metal. That said, just a reminder, a week from today, yay. Next up is J.R. Roach from Sam Black Church. That's a week from today. And then, of course, a week after that is the Halloween show with my brother, Evan B. Stone, Adventures of a Ghost Hunter. We're going to get into all kinds of paranormal stuff, all kinds of cool stuff. It's a Halloween show. His buddy, Jack Vaesi from J&J Adventures, who's a well-known ghost hunter, will be on. And also our guest will be our friend, Craig Satari. And, of course, the 300 show has been announced. It is Ray Capo. Also want to remind everybody that the book is available. Pick it up at www.stonefilmsnyc.com. There it is. Both are available, 1 and 2. They look very nice together on your bookshelf. That said, any questions you have for our guest, please don't be shy. Post them up. Let's go deep. Let's get weird. All right. Here we go. Let's bring Trevor from American Werewolves back on. Let's see what we got, buddy. Hey, Trevor, any stories about playing shows in New York City? Any New York memories? Any New York stuff?
We played there a couple times. We did a Cleveland Fest. It was called Cleveland Fest, and it was in New York, and it was Cleveland bands only, and it was mostly just Cleveland people there, which
that's interesting.
But yeah, we didn't do a lot of New York shows. They did like a horror punk fest in Lodi, maybe 2015 we played, but not a lot of.
I remember. I remember that. I remember it. Lodi. Of course, it was in Lodi, right?
Right. I was in a band briefly called Gazon. This is 2016. So this was supposed to be like some kind of super group. It had the brothers from Integrity, the Melnick brothers.
Sure.
Blaze from One Life Crew, and then Robert Orr on drums. So this was supposed to be like this big time metal band or something, but we ended up playing like the Staten Island dump, where we just played like there was like some crusty punk dude or something who just lived like literally in the Staten Island dump, and then we went through
excuse me, the Fresh Kills landfill in Staten Island.
That may have been where it was, but we played just outside on a pile of garbage.
Wow.
And then I remember there was a house, like a 1-story house, and there was beer bottles piled up to like where the roof of the house were. And then as we were playing, a guy ran off the house and jumped into the beer bottles like it was going to be a ball. I think he just in his mind or something thought it would be like a soft fall. And then he came out. You could hear it over the music of him hitting the bottles. But he just ran into the woods like a wounded animal. And then after the set, we saw him cruising down the street like covered in blood and like limping. And his friends was like, "Hey, have you seen our friend?" I was like, "Yeah, he's down there in the Staten Island dump." But
yeah, he severed his carotid artery and he's limping down the street.
Right. But yeah, that was a New York show at the
wow. That's
landfill.
nuts. Our resident graffiti guy, RS70, asked, did you ever get into graffiti growing up in that part of the country?
No, but at art school there was a couple kids I grew up with that were phenomenal. I ride a bike around a lot, like I explore the city a lot, so I'm like a fan of graffiti in general, and there's some good stuff. But when I was young, there were like a group of kids called the Cleveland Scribe Tribe, and they would do like some incredible stuff down on the Rapid line was big in Cleveland at that time, like mid to late 90s.
Sure.
So I was always a fan, but myself never got into it. It's almost more interesting to me now at this point in life rather than when I was younger to kind of sneak out at night and, make something cool.
Has, like in New York, I assume, just the way of the world now, that there's been a being you're out and about, a resurgence in sort of street art, since the pandemic. Is there a lot of it out there now?
It seems like there's more paid for street art, stuff where someone commissioned
Sure.
stuff that looks like street art on the buildings and stuff like that.
Yeah. That makes sense. GXH and the world asks, any favorite neo-billy / rockabilly bands?
I'm actually not real into more modern kind of rock. Like, just never really interested me. As like early wild actual hillbilly stuff, like Hazel Atkins, if you're familiar with him at all. That's interesting to me. I think that's cool. So
That's
out
old
Hazel
time,
Atkins.
that's old timey shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing where it's an actual, backwoods hillbilly guy that's a maniac
Yeah.
seems pretty cool. That actually, Hazel Atkins has this "No More Hot Dogs" song. That's the wildest song you'll ever hear, but also a jam at the same time. But I think it was like, if you listen to the lyrics in Skulls by the Misfits, I think it was influenced by old Hazel Atkins.
I could see that. Darren asks, if you're from Cleveland, have you heard of the band Chimera?
Oh, yeah. They just did a reunion. Integrity played it, and man, the name's slipping. Someone else played, but they sold out the Agora, which is a big venue here, 2 nights in a row.
The Agora Ballroom is like is a famous
right.
venue.
So they had been broken up for years.
Yeah.
But were able to sell out the Agora 2 nights in a row. I never was. Most of the Cleveland guys, people notoriously don't get along well here sometimes, but I seem to get along these days with pretty much everybody. But those guys, I never hung out with those guys or anything. And then when I was younger, I kind of saw that more as new metal and was kind of like anti new metal, if that's,
I see them in that back then when they came out. In that
Super nice guys.
Yeah. I remember those guys, nice guys. My friend Scott Koenig was involved with them in a management sense, who managed Biohazard back then, and that was that new metal era, man.
Right. So the one guy from that band, Mark Hunter is his name, I think.
Yeah,
he did a cover of the. If you're into Conan, the coolest movie ever, there's the soundtrack to Conan has a song called "Anvil of Crom," which he does a cover of "Anvil of Crom."
Is that right?
Amazing, man, amazing.
That's pretty cool to go that deep and do a cover of something like that.
Right. So listening to Chimera or Chimera, if you're not from Ohio.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Anvil of Crom cover's sick. So
cool. Hey, let's talk about what's going on here.
Oh, October the 20th, we're playing an All Misfits cover show at No Class in Cleveland, Ohio. So yeah, we've been rehearsing that. It should be fun. We did one in our first.
We were going to play. We were going to play this show with you guys.
This was going to be you and One Life All In with Don Foose, and then there was booking mistakes, so this show got bounced to Friday. So we had to put it back together.
We have
But
to rebuild it from the ground up.
right, so hopefully we can, play with Don and you guys sometime in 2024 here.
Yeah,
Shows
absolutely. Go ahead.
shows in Cleveland have been since like post COVID have been incredible. Like
Right.
the last couple shows we've been as good as any other shows that we've played over the years. So
That's great.
I think there's kind of like a post COVID kind of reinsurgence right now. But shows in Cleveland have been as well attended as they've ever been, recently.
I mean, this is a cool show. I wish we were playing this show. You guys are doing a Misfits thing. Halloween is a couple days away. I mean, this looks like a fun fucking show.
Yeah, it should be incredible. The there's a Ramones tribute called Tight Wind that are like very authentically dedicated to playing Ramones songs correctly. Forlorn United, the singer is this guy Matt Cross, who's like a wrestler from the area.
Oh, right on.
He's been on. He's fairly notorious, especially on the independent scene, high flyer type, good dude. And then afterwards, DJ session. I like to dance myself, so. But
is that right?
DJ Resurrecto. I'm always like after shows, I feel like a while. You get so adrenalized. I always want to keep on going. So we got.
I know how that is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like such a high. It kind of want to keep it going, I guess.
Our resident historian Chucky Brown says Halloween is coming back up. In 1980, he was the Red Skull. Will he be him again for Halloween this year? And also, what's your favorite werewolf movie? Were you the Red Skull at one of these things?
Yeah, how someone knows that? That's insane.
People
in
do
1980, I think it was like a Boy Scouts thing that my brother was in. They had a costume contest, and I was the Red Skull, which is funny to be a fictitious Nazi leader at a Boy Scout party. I won a jack-o'-lantern at the time. How everyone knows that is bizarre. But favorite werewolf movie, maybe Curse of the Werewolf, like we talked about earlier with Oliver Reed. I think that's like incredible, really intense for its day, and it has like the satanic element to it rather than the supernatural, I guess.
That's a Hammer film, right?
Yeah. The one thing that bothers me about Hammer films is the blood is like this weird pinkish color. It's like not a blood color, And I was like, dude, these guys make all these movies with blood, and then they have this ridiculous fake blood that looks pink.
That's thank you, Chucky. That was deep. Chucky went deep. Yeah. Somebody said American Werewolf in London. You know what? I just recently rewatched American Werewolf in London with my gal. Thinking, oh, you've never seen this, and it was okay. And I loved that film for years and revisited it a couple of times. But just revisiting it now, it was okay. It wasn't as great as I remember. But I think a lot of things are like that now,
I'm a fan of that movie, but I wouldn't say like a super fan of the transformation scene. I think is kind of what the whole movie is like. And like the special
that was groundbreaking.
Right. So I think that was a special effects pushed movie.
Yeah. That was Rick Baker,
Rick Baker, the monster maker.
Michael Jackson went out after that and did Thriller.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, Rick Baker, man. Rick Baker, monster maker. Yeah. Absolutely. American Werewolf in Paris was shit. Yeah, it sucked. Is that right? Suzanne Summers passed away. Rest in peace, Suzanne Summers.
R.I.P. Suzanne Summers and the Thigh Master.
Yeah.
Three's Company. What a ridiculous television show. We were talking about these shows yesterday. There'd be all these shows we would watch as kids, and we never even like them. Like I would watch Gilligan's Island and Three's Companies and Beverly Hillbillies. I never thought they were like cool ass shows or anything. Just as something.
We were talking about. I'm a little bit older. We were talking about like F Troop. Like F Troop where like the Indians were played by a bunch of Jewish character actors, you know, with their
Right.
faces painted, you know, brown, like F Troop.
Yeah.
With you never see reruns ever, you know.
Yeah, back when you didn't get to pick what you watched.
Yeah. Gilligan's Island was bizarre. That was a bizarre film. Yeah, the Howling. Yeah, Howling was a good film. That was cool.
Howling's sick. Some of the later ones are pretty good too.
Yeah. I mean, do you have that channel Shudder?
No.
It's like all horror stuff, and it's like basically like a channel that's
I got out of watching movies and things. Like, it was weird because it was especially with like the Wanderers Forever record, was films were almost more influential on that than music at the time. But I got out of watching music or movies maybe around 2017 or so, and just really haven't watched anything in years.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I got into more doing like outdoor stuff and devoted my time to that. And then a lot of movies, I don't like to hang out in the past too much. So I try to not rewatch things, you know, but the only things I want to watch are things I've seen. And I just don't get the same feeling from newer stuff. To give you an example, I was at my sister's house maybe like 2 weekends ago. I was like, oh man, I'll watch a new horror movie. So it's whatever this newest Halloween is with Jamie Lee Curtis. But this guy in the beginning gets assaulted by band members. And I'm like, this is the most ridiculous concept I've ever seen, where there's like these violent band members that assault. You know, I get that you don't want to have the same jock bullies, but to use band. And I was like, anything in my like viewing mind, anything this guy gets, he deserves. I'm like, if you're going to get victimized by the band, you kind of deserve a favor.
Yeah.
But I mean, I watched 15 minutes of it and turned it off because it just seems. I tried watching the new Texas. There was if anyone gets on a phone or a computer in a movie, I'm like watching a movie to avoid that. So it kind of takes me out of the.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, my dad used to do that. My dad used to go to the movies and walk out. My dad was a film director, and if my dad didn't like a movie, he'd walk out.
Right.
Like he'd pay
to walk
go to the
out.
movie, and like he wouldn't waste. He didn't want to waste his time. He'd walk. He used to walk out on a lot. My dad would walk out on a lot of movies, man.
Yeah.
He just wouldn't want to fucking sit through it, you know.
Sure. I mean, like I would rather just chalk that first 20 minutes up as lost time and do something else at that point. But it's like chasing the dragon with a lot of music and movies, where unless I rediscover something from the past that I somehow missed out on, I just don't get the feeling that I used to get from entertainment, you know.
That's
Which I think I was like, have I just grown like old or calloused or something? But then I'll like Pentagram was something that I like missed out on. So then I hear that and it, you know, it feels like the same feeling as ever. But it just seems like unless I can dig up something from the past, modern music or movies doesn't really do it for me.
I appreciate your honesty. That's really rare to have somebody, you know, really put the cards on the table like that. It's very honest, and it forces me to reflect that how fortunate I am in the regard of this show, because one of the of what I do is a guest like you comes on, and I do my homework, and I really, you know, go into the corners and the recesses, and really, you know, a lot of times. Mostly rediscover, but a lot of times discover someone's catalog. And I'm like, wow, how did I miss, you know, how did I not, you know? So I'm fortunate that it's sort of like my gig is, you know, forces me to do homework, and I go, you know, and deep into people's catalogs. And I you know, a lot of stuff that I wouldn't go that deep. And some stuff really sticks with me, even, you know, after after the show. But I think like what you're talking about with film, it's so formulatic. What's it?
Formulaic.
Formulaic. Thank you. You see these films out. It's all CGI. It looks like you're watching a computer fucking game. It's like there's no real films with actors acting anymore. And I like actors acting. You know.
Right. I mean, the thing about movies or music or anything, I think it's an escape. And I think I used to look to a lot of music, you know, like where you just go to a different place for 2.5 hours. And I just don't get that feeling, you know, I don't get that invested enough to feel like I'm acting. You know, like I would watch movies back in the day, like David Lynch stuff, and I would feel like I was there experiencing, you know, like a dream or something where you're actually there. So I think sometimes you just have to like move on to different things, you know, rather than trying to find nostalgia or, you know, digging back into things I've seen before. I just moved on to other interests.
Yeah, right on. RS70 asks, what does he think about Ink Master Tattoo Show?
I think with tattooing, there was like a real aura around it where it was very mysterious and protected and semi like scary and very intimidating. And then when you put things on TV in that capacity, it just, you know, it's just a TV show. So it's no longer threatening or, so I think it kind of, if there's a little magic or whatever to tattooing, I think it kind of took it away. And I don't think it added anything. I don't think tattooing being on TV made it better, made some people some good money, or might have made tattooing more popular. But yeah.
I think it's interesting in a certain regard. The way you're framing it is, it reminds me like the way hardcore was in the beginning. You had to really want it. You had to seek it out. You had to find it. You had to go to the A7 at 1 a.m. and knock on the door with the secret knock. And now it's just part of the, you know, not just the American, but the worldwide lexicon. Therefore, in a certain way, it's lost some of its luster. It's definitely different, you know.
Even with the trade of learning how to do it, it was just really not the reason I was kind of allowed into tattooing at the time is because the band, it didn't have a ton to do with the my artistic talents. Is I was kind of known as a guy who was had a cool band and was tough in the area, you know, because the other guys I worked with were, you know, tough guys. So it was just a different thing back then. There just were so many less tattooers, you know, so there was more money to be made for the guys, you know, that were around. So yeah, I don't think the shows, it's like a show of anything, it's going to make something less cool on a certain level, you know.
Yeah, got it. Trying to get up this photo, it's not biting. All right, doesn't like that one. Okay. Let's see. Anything else as we head towards the door? Yeah. Darren says, I can't understand why they're remaking classic horrors now. I'll tell you, because in this day and age, original ideas are few and far between, and everything's been remade, and everything will continue to be remade because they, at one point, they made money, and there's a nostalgic tinge for it. So they'll just fucking remake them again and again, whether it's the fucking Addams Family or Halloween 15.
Yeah, it would be cool to see someone do original ideas. You know, I think that's what the world is. The technology and things like that are improving, but just originality is authentic.
Yeah.
You know, being like truly authentic and making something is like a lost art.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like, remakes. I mean, how many remakes are even, would you compare ever to, you know, just watch the movie?
Nothing. I mean, and we've kind of tripped out on some of them over here, like the Papillon remake. You know?
I didn't know there was a Papillon remake.
Oh yeah. By the way, speaking of Papillon,
What an amazing movie old fucking Papillon is.
oh, that. Hey, listen, that movie inspired me so much to go out and do something like that. You know?
Yeah.
That movie spoke to me. That film really spoke to me. That was a big film. Yeah.
The cigar
there's a
scene.
remake.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the cigar scene with the lepers.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh, that's intense.
How did you know it was?
Yeah, there's going back to like movies that you would think would be like huger hits, like watching that movie, you know, like when I saw that was just something I saw on cable late at night. You know, it's not a very popular film for having name, you know, like Dustin Hoffman and Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a great movie that is.
And absolutely. So that said, just in review, everybody, if you are in the Cleveland area, there's a great show going down on October 20th. American Werewolves doing a Misfit set. Is it I'm assuming it's an early Misfit set. Any Earth AD stuff?
I can't give any details of the set. It's top,
gotcha.
top secret. But we've been working hard on them. They're definitely fun to play and learn and stuff, you know. And I think you know, this is going to be a Cleveland punk rock hardcore set. It's not like Silly Billy Fun Time.
Right.
We're coming to get you on this one. You know, we're going to play the songs how they played them in the 80s with that intensity to them. It's not for the faint of heart.
Good.
Coming for you.
Sounds great. Anybody you want to thank or shout out on the way out?
Shout out to all the guys in the band. It's cool to still be in a band with your friends at this point and not have like hired jabronis or whoever. So still get to hang out with my good friends in the band. So shout out to those guys. Shout out to Fast Break Records, Atom Bomb Tattoo, True Believer Jiu-Jitsu in Pittsburgh, Darren Branch and Love and Chokes Jiu-Jitsu, Cleveland Combat Club. Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks a lot for the recent. I mean, some of that stuff I haven't thought about in 20 years. So I appreciate your professionalism and attention to detail and all that. It's nice doing this kind of music to be treated with respect and as a, you know, like in a professional regard, where there's so many years where you somewhat get shit on in media or whatever, or treated as less. It's nice to get a professional treatment, man. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It was an honor having you on the show, and I look forward to coming out and playing Cleveland with you when we get the record.
Yeah, I think early 24 we can do something. And I would love to, you know, have Don and One Life in all in on that show too. Yeah, I think it'd be a great show.
We'll do it. Absolutely.
All right, brother.
Thanks, Trevor. I'll talk to you soon.
See you next time.
All right. Well, there you have it. Trevor Moment was our guest from American Werewolves. Nice show. Nice, calm show. Yeah, you caught the hired jabroni. It's Iron Sheik, right? Anybody follow the Iron Sheik Instagram page? Instagram, that thing is hilarious, man. Yeah, it was a nice show. Nice show. Nice, calm show. It's good to have a nice, calm show. This is the next one a week from today with J.R. Roach. So yeah, cool people, nice people. You know, it was one of those shows, you know, this was one of the shows where I didn't really know him beforehand. We were supposed to go out there and play that show with them. Don Foos hooked it up. We were supposed to do the show, and I booked him to do this show thinking we were supposed to play that show, next week, right? You know, in a couple of days. And then they moved the show from Saturday to Friday. It was a big difference between playing Cleveland on a Saturday and a Friday for us. Because if we're playing on Friday, we can wake up, go to the airport Saturday morning, fly, play the show, stay overnight, come back on Sunday. When they moved it to Friday, everyone's got to take off from work. We got to travel on a Friday. That kind of that killed it. We are the hired jambronis. Should I add that to the list? We're the hired jambronis. You know, we came up with another one today. Me and Steven, I said, because he makes these flyers, and he constantly comes up with like Planet of the Apes, Marvel Comics, or like a woman, like, you know, in distress. And I said, no Planet of the Apes, no science fiction, and no women in distress. And he laughed. He goes, that's a good name for a band, you know, WID, Women in Distress. You know, how about a face tattoo? No, I don't want a face tattoo. I don't need any more tattoos, man. I don't need a face tattoo. I got my tattoos like 5 lifetimes ago. You know, I don't need any more fucking. I got tattoos you guys have never seen. They're in places you've never seen. You know, who's got one of these? Right? Wait, hold. Yeah, I got a star toe. You know, how about that? I got a star toe. Not that I'm showing you my feet on the show. I also have Gil Monty, Gil the Drill, did my back. Sunset Tattoo, Gil Monty. I got a couple you've never seen. Oh, here, you'll appreciate this one. RS, for all you street bike fans out there. 12 O'Clock, the first film I directed. 12 O'Clock on my calf, you know. Oh, relax there. We're not getting into that on this show, Natasha. I think you're on the wrong channel. This is the music channel here. You know? Yeah. Coming soon, Drew Stone, OnlyFans for people with feet fetishes. You know who's got a foot fetish? You know who's got a foot fetish? Anybody? On Instagram. Anybody? Who has a foot fetish? Who's in a big New York hardcore band? How about that for a 300 show, huh? Happy about that? Guy we chased around for a long time. Finally got that one, you know? We are foot fetish. I'm too old. I don't have any fetish. I'm too old for any fetishes at this point. You know, I got time for that. That's right. Killers of the Flower Moon looks really good. I agree. And I will return to the movie theater for that. And hopefully it's not, you know what? My big gripe with Oppenheimer was all the, you know, I have a feeling like that was a Christopher Nolan film. I got a feeling like the Scorsese film is not going to be like everything. Like, I hope not, man. I'll go back to the movie theater for Killers of the Flower Moon. Me and Rochelle will go, you know. Is that right? The only place to get my street bike films was at the Shockumentary section in Amoeba. Is that right? I still have to do a Urban Street Bike Warrior reunion show. I've never done one of those on here. Bring on some of the old riders, you know. That's it. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. If you don't have the book, come on, buy the fucking book. All right? Join Patreon or pick it up at www.stonefilmsnyc.com. Help me help you. I'll even sign it for you. All the books are numbered, stamped, numbered. I sign them. You get a pack in there. Help me help you. Matt Damon's in what movie? Matt Damon was in Oppenheimer. I don't think he's in the Scorsese film. You know. I tried to watch the Lago film on Amazon. It said not available in my area. I got to look into that. Thanks for the heads up. Someone else told me they couldn't get it. I got to look into that. Fuck's going on, man, with this distributor. Fucking distributors, man. They're all so fucked up. Foul, you know. as I'm sitting here cutting the Biohazard documentary, which I'm not supposed to talk about. So there you go. All right. I think we're good. I'm good. You're good. We're good. Let's go. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you next week. Until then, do some good things, and some good things will come to you.